everybody. Welcome back to the last of our videos and our last of our book club on Food Truck 201, Get Off the Truck. That's written by myself. I'm Bill Moore and my wife, Melissa Moore. So we're all the way to the end of the book. We spent the last several weeks going over all the different chapters and sections of the book. And now we are up to the appendices, which take up the majority of the book, about 150 pages. Has anyone started writing their SPPS? And if you recall, that stands for Standards, Policies, Procedures, and Systems. So I want you to think about that. If you haven't already started writing them, now's the time to start. You got to have each of those in order to be able to do the stuff that we're going to be talking about in the appendices here in just a second. The book has three copies of these important materials that you should be thinking about for your business as well. I set these up as an example of how detailed to be, and obviously you can copy and paste as much of the information that you can that makes sense for your business. The operations manual, we go into details on not only the recipes, which I bet most of y'all probably have recipes, but if you look at how detailed the recipes are, they're also trainable. So that's what you got to look at. It's not only how do we measure out stuff, but what should it look like? Like we talk about the size of the meat when we make a chili. You want to have all those kind of details, but we go beyond the recipes. We're talking about cash handling. We're talking about registers. We're talking about POS. We're talking about how to train people. We're talking about marketing. We're talking about a whole lot of different things that you have to have in place to have a successful business. Now, why do I say that you have to have them in place? Because if they're not written down, you can't ever step off the truck. Now, think about that. If you really, truly want to get off the food truck, you really, truly want to operate a business rather than work in the business, you have to have something that replaces your voice when you're not there. That's what an ops manual does. That's what a marketing manual does. It's what the equipment manual does. All of those different manuals act as if you are there because these are your voice. So be detailed, be extremely detailed, and go through it, and don't worry about it only being 30 pages. That's a great start. You know, the one that's in the book's 100 and some pages, and it's written for a hot dog cart. That's how specific we got. Just use that as an example to build your own operations manual and be detailed. And then pull it out all the time. An operations manual should be well worn because people are always referring to it. Because if they're referring to it, they're wanting to do the things the way you want them done. If the book looks pristine on the shelf, then ain't nobody reading it. And if they ain't reading it, they sure ain't doing it. Okay, one of the other manuals I included was an employee manual, and we go into the policies part. So operations is procedures based on the standards that you have come up with. And now the employee manual is a policy part. And this talks about things like being late. Do we have a vacation? What happens, when you have a guest complaint? It talks about the human side of the business. And you got to go through all of those details. Again, use it as a guideline to establish your own. The employee manual is relatively thin compared to the operations manual. And you can certainly get in more detail if you want. But the idea behind that employee manual, again, we're dealing with people. So we're going to have policies deal with people, procedures deal with things. And then the last little section is on inspections. This becomes your system. Inspections are one way of creating a system. The inspection is extremely detailed. And we go through a lot of information as far as equipment and temperatures and how clean something should be. We're talking about the walls. We're talking about the exterior lights. We're talking about wheels. We're talking about everything a guest would see or come in contact with. And then having that standard of what it should look like. And then we're grading our people on, does it look the way that the standard says? So all of these things are predicated on standards. So you got to write your standards before you do anything else. But the inspection part, that's the part that makes sure that the operations manual is being adhered to. That's the part that double checks the employee manual to make sure that the service is the way that it should be being presented to our guest. So the inspection is a key component. If you don't have the inspections, you don't have the systems, you don't have the checklist to get things done, you will have wasted all of your time. Because when you're not on the truck, there's nobody making sure things are being done the way you want it to be done. So these are three key components that go with the standards, the policies, procedures, and systems. We talked about this a little bit on the last video, but it's important to me. When you encourage others, that's what this whole book is about. It's what all of the books have been about. It's what the videos that we've done have been about. You're in the process are encouraged because you're making a commitment and a difference in that person's life. Encouragement really does make a difference. I can't stress that enough. Encourage your staff to be better than they are today. Encourage them to be better for tomorrow, because you want your staff to grow and be better as people. You don't want to have somebody you hired today work with you the next 30 years as a food truck employee. Ideally, you want them to grow and eventually run one of your food trucks for you while you're not there. And then perhaps someday they get their own food truck. And that's okay. Don't be afraid to teach people everything that you know so that they can be successful. Because I promise you, everything that you teach them will not be everything you know. It'll be everything you remembered at the point that you were teaching them. And if you got somebody that competes with you that is just as good as you are, it forces you to do what? Get better. I didn't mind training all the people that I trained because I was hoping at some point they would get their own food truck or food trailer or their own restaurant and compete with me, so I would have a challenge. I would have somebody that would be almost as good as me that I need to get better than. And of course, you guys have an absolutely Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll be back next year and do a whole bunch more with our training to help you guys be successful in your food trucks.